Coming up, we find out how presidential candidates are using endorsements to win the Iowa caucus. And later, we will see how the LGBT organization center kicks off Pride History Month.
We hear from Iowa football as they prepare for Michigan this weekend.
And we have a tennis update for you later in sports.
Now that fall is in full swing, it's going to bring us some cooler weather and maybe even our first freeze. Find out more in weather.
All that and more coming up on this Wednesday morning edition of DITV. Don't go anywhere, DITV starts now. Good morning and thank you for tuning in. I'm Mackenzie Paulson. Presidential candidates announce new endorsements all the time. They are important pieces for a caucus victory, but the value and effects of endorsements vary. We have Daily Iowan reporter Caleb McCullough in the newsroom to explain more. Caleb, why do candidates seek out endorsements?
Well, endorsements can be a really good way to give name recognition to a candidate and get them better known in the state, especially with so many Democrats in the field right now. It's a really good way to separate, to get the candidates to separate themselves from the pack. Also, they add validity to the campaign and show that the candidate has a structure of support behind them.
How much value do endorsements bring to a campaign?
What I've gathered from talking to a lot of people who are really involved in this process is that the value that an endorser brings really depends on the individual endorser and what they do for the candidate. So if somebody attends the candidate's events and holds their own events, travels around the state and knocks doors, then that can be a really good benefit. But if the endorser just puts their name behind it but has no action, then that won't be as valuable and won't bring as much benefit to the campaign.
Thank you, Caleb. Iowa City organizations have partnered to host a presidential forum on the overdose crisis this Saturday. According to the CDC, over 70,000 people died of drug overdoses in 2017, and today it remains one of the leading causes of death in the U.S. The forum, The Overdose Crisis in America, will take place at the Engler Theater and will discuss national drug policies and criminal justice reform. So far, Senator Bernie Sanders is the only candidate who's agreed to speak at the event. Tuesday, the Pride Alliance Center held a luncheon officially kicking off Pride History Month. Students were encouraged to stop by and grab some food, refreshments, and learn about events that will be held throughout the remainder of the month. Here's what the Pride Alliance had to say about the goals of these events.
Because it is like History Month, it is a little bit about like talking about the stories of queer people and the queer identity, like queer as like an umbrella term, but like the queer community is so full of like intersectionality. And so we're really putting a lot of emphasis on that this year, which I really like. So that's kind of one thing, is just like bringing awareness to like the stories and experiences of the queer community, as well as like a little bit of like the history of like, not like why we are what we are, but just like the history of like the culture of being in the queer community. In addition to just like really celebrating the queer community.
They'll be continuing their event with courageous conversations with the VP of Student Life, Melissa Shrivers, tonight at 5:30 at the Pride Alliance Center. Fall weather seems to be headed our way. Let's go to Melissa in the weather studio to find out more.
Thanks, Kenzie. Now that it's fall, it looks like the first freeze of the season will be coming across the country. In the northern parts of the United States, they have already experienced their first freeze sometime in September. The southern half of the United States also will be receiving their first freeze around November. Now, luckily for us, in Iowa, we won't be saying ice, ice, baby anytime soon because we won't experience our first freeze until sometime around October 15th. Today's weather in Iowa City will have a high of 67 degrees and a 90% chance of rain. As we head into tonight, the temperature will drop to 53 degrees and we keep that 90% chance of rain. Now let's take a look at the extended forecast. Tomorrow will be partly cloudy with a high of 60 degrees and a low of 42 with winds around 16 miles per hour. On Friday, it will be partly cloudy with a high of 61 and a 60% chance of rain in the evening. This weekend, on Saturday, we'll have a 70% chance of rain and a high in the low 60s. On Sunday, it will be partly cloudy with a high in the mid-60s, and on Monday, the sun will come back out and we'll have a high in the low 60s. The next couple of days are going to be a lot cooler than we're used to, so you might want to bring out that fall jacket. Kenzie, back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Melissa. Yesterday at the Daily Iowan, we spoke with new UI Executive Vice President and Provost Montes Fuentes. It is her first year in the role, and she is already looking to start making changes on campus, including efforts to increase graduation rates. You can read more from the DI's interview with Fuentes online and in the paper edition of the Daily Iowan on stands now. A lot is happening in sports this weekend. Let's go to Tanner and Riley to find out more.
That's right, Kenzie. And even though they aren't in season yet, Iowa women's track and field is making headlines.
Right you are, Riley. Former University of Iowa All-American Brittany Brown won her heat in the semifinals of the 2019 World Finals and will now compete for the world title in the 200 meter in Doha, Qatar.
Brown won her heat in 22.46 seconds. She'll head to the women's 200 meter finals after running a personal best in the semis.
Brown's former teammate and current Hawkeye discus thrower, Lalago Tasaga, will make her world debut today at 10 a.m.
Okay, sorry.
Now moving to the gridiron, Iowa football is set for their biggest test of the season so far when they face number 19 Michigan in Ann Arbor this weekend.
And this team views this game as an opportunity to prove themselves on the national stage.
Before the season, you look on the schedule, you see, boom, Michigan. Yeah. That's it's just a game that stands out because, we got to go on the road and play those guys. That stadium is going to be packed. It's going to be one of the biggest games of the weekend. So it's definitely something we've been looking forward to for a while, and now the opportunity's finally come. So just being ready to take care of the opportunity whenever it comes around and be ready on Saturday.
Actually open up with Michigan now, starting to flat all of our games built like Big Ten. So, I mean, this is gonna prove it, what type of team we are. Going away game, we want to be road warriors. So, I mean, going in the big house, try to get a win is gonna really show what type of team we are.
Big time school, a chance to prove ourselves. Everybody, Michigan this, Michigan that, and it's just I feel as though it's a team to improve on. And show our worth. I believe, we're a good team, going against, one of the household names of, college football. Just going out there, being able to prove yourself.
We'll have more on Iowa's game against the Blue this Friday in our pregame show.
While football has been underway for about a month now, one Iowa sport is just getting started.
The women's tennis team finished their first invitational of the season, and we have DITV photo editor Siobhan Huja live in the newsroom to tell us more.
So, Siobhan, what can you tell us about how the Hawkeyes fared in their invitational?
So the Iowa women's tennis team had a phenomenal Gopher invite a little over a week ago. The team, led by mostly veterans, was able to string together 6 doubles and 7 singles wins. But the tournament surprise was freshman Erica Doddridge, who, by defeating Iowa State's Umaima Aziz, won the D-Draw championship.
What can we expect for the Hawkeyes as they head into the season?
Both the women's and men's teams are hoping to build off the success of last year. With Doddridge on the women's side and freshman Matt Clegg on the men's side, both teams only had one senior to replace from last season. So head coaches Sasha Schmidt and Ross Wilson are hoping that stability on the roster will lead to chemistry on the court.
Thanks, Siobhan. That was Siobhan's live in the newsroom.
Now moving off the dry land, the Iowa swimming and diving team will open their season as they host Michigan State tomorrow and Northern Iowa on Friday.
And one Hawkeye to keep an eye on will be senior Hannah Burville. Burville holds 4 individual school records and ranks 2nd in the 500 free.
The England native has been named Iowa's team MVP for the past 2 seasons and hopes to keep her streak alive heading into her final season.
That's all we have for you in sports today.
But tune in tomorrow for the recap on the Iowa Volleyballs matchup against Minnesota.
Kenzie, back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Tanner and Riley. The sports world may be changing for college athletes. A new California law signed by Governor Gavin Newsom will allow student athletes to profit off their name, image, and likeliness. This law could make changes that defy the NCAA bylaws. Newsom actually signed the bill on LeBron James' HBO show, The Shop. This law is set to take effect on January 1st, 2023. That's all we have for you on this Wednesday morning edition of DITV. Be sure to head over to thedailyiowan.com for all your latest news between Monday and Friday. If that isn't enough of the Daily Ion for you, be sure to check out our print edition of the news on stands now. For DITV, I'm Mackenzie Paulson. Have a great day, Iowa City.